We've all seen deadlifts like this or like this. But in reality, the deadlift is one of the coolest exercises you can do in a gym with the bench press. And just like the bench press, the deadlift is a tricky exercise to do if you're a beginner in the gym. But don't worry, this video will fix everything for you. I'm going to give you the 3 tips that I used in order to develop my deadlift technique and also massively build my strength up to the point that I can now deadlift over 4 times my body weight with good technique. So without further ado, let's jump in with the best 3 tips in order to maximize your deadlift technique and improve your deadlift strength. Tip number 1, push your hips back. So the main problem with the deadlift is that people think that they need to be behind the bar. So if my camera guy goes here, you can see this round here, and from there we want to draw a line. The goal here for me is to have my body above this line. And the problem, especially with most beginners, is they tend to think the deadlift is a bit of a squat, and they tend to be far too much behind this line. So instead of being here, they're going to be here. And with light weights, obviously I can rip the bar off the floor from this position, but with heavier weights, what will happen is your hips will kick back and your shoulders will be driven in front of the bar with your back rounding excessively. So the goal is to avoid all of that, and for that there are 2 simple fixes we can have. The first one is, instead of going to sit down, you want to hinge at your hips. And for that there's a very quick fix. You can take your hands, you will place them at your hip level, and from here you're just going to push yourself backwards while keeping your center of mass over your midfoot. So you don't want to be here, so on your heels too much. You want to keep the whole foot contact with the ground and simply push yourself slightly back. So with that, we're doing 2 things. We're positioning our shoulders above the bar, and also we're hinging at the hips. We're pre-engaging our hips in order to have a nice push with the legs into the movement. So, like I said, having my hinge, and now I'm above the bar. Tip number 2, get closer to the ground. From here, what I want to do is I don't want to lose that positioning. I don't want to go behind the bar. I simply want to lower myself until I can grab the bar with my hands. So, very easy, lowering myself, and now I can grab the bar. And as you can see, from this line, my body is above this line. I'm not here, I'm not too much forward either on my toes. I'm really on mid-foot level with the shoulder in a very good position. And with this position, you will be able to pull heavier weights without getting your position compromised. So without having your hips shoot back, and also without having excessive rounding in your back. Because one of the main reasons as to why those 2 mistakes happen first in the deadlift is, like I said, people trying to be behind the bar too much. And if you do the opposite, so instead of being too far behind, you want to be above, on top of the bar, you have a much better position to deadlift from. Tip number 3, pull with the back, push with the legs. So if you've properly followed tip number 1 and tip number 2, by this point, you're pretty much here. Now, the goal is to pull the bar with your back, and at the same time you're pulling with your back, you want to push with your legs against the ground. So imagine you're trying to accomplish this, and at the same time, you're just pulling the bar. So if you do those 2 elements combined, you should have a very easy and smooth bar coming off the floor. So it looks like this. Step number 1, step number 2, and now step number 3, pulling and pushing. Pulling, and then pushing. In reality, I just showed you those 2 elements in distinction, but if you're doing it at regular speed, you shouldn't have any distinction. You should be pulling and pushing at pretty much the same time in order to maximize your strength. There you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. If that's the case, one of the best ways to let me know is subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Now, with those 3 tips, you don't have any excuse to not crush your deadlift in the gym. So I'm counting on you in order to do that, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.